Hope everybody's getting ready to get
Ready
into
to
some
get
good
some good
old
old.
bar fights.
I see some questions popping up from work asking if I'm part of the team. I did join the team a few months ago, so I've been working close with them on things regarding Parallel, and also had the pleasure to work alongside some Funge Labs folks to chip in on what the Funge a little bit. So to answer that question, yeah, and it's been fantastic. I'm excited to show you guys what we've been cooking up over at Funge Labs for some what the Funge, as you have recently seen.
Excellent. Maybe just for planning, Sean or Fall, do you guys want me to walk us through this, or do one of you guys want to take lead?
It'd be great if you walked us on through, Steelhead.
All right, cool. All right, let's kick it off. Cold recording, and today we're gonna quick talk about, maybe not quick, but we're gonna review what the Funge game grant application by Funge Labs. Some of the game team is here. So to kick it off, let's go through the intros. First, if each of you guys, Sentiens, Astro, Fall, would introduce yourselves. Actually, Astro, you covered that, so we can call that good. Sentiens and Fall, if you guys want to intro yourselves just for posterity and your role with the proposal and Funge Labs, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So, hey everyone, I'm Fall. I'm a two-term elected EP here at Echelon. I also work over at Parallel and have been working in the video game industry for over a decade. The game What the Funge is in a large part due to an inspiration I had playing some other auto battlers around a year ago. And I saw a gigantic opportunity to use an auto battler type game to bridge NFT communities to grow awareness for the Prime ecosystem. So here we are nearly a year later with a game that is more or less complete, and I'm really excited to answer these questions for all of you today.
Hello from me as well, everybody. My name is Sentience. I'm a first year EP, and now I'm working on my own projects. I learned about what the funds from Fall. It was just a tiny little bit of a wild idea out there last year, and we've been working a lot on it. I'm the lead game designer for it, or at least one of the game designers, however the title may be. And I had this vision of creating an auto battler that wasn't just any sort of just idle brain dead game, but actually had a relatively low skill floor, but a very high skill ceiling for the true gamers. So if you're looking for true enjoyable gameplay, you have it here.
Awesome. Thanks, Sentiens. And Astro, maybe one point of clarity. You said joined the team a few months ago. Do you mean Parallel team? So you're formerly with the Parallel team and then working just a little bit on the side with Funge Labs. Could you just clarify that real quick?
Yeah, sure. So I officially joined the Parallel team about 2 months ago now, and have been working in part with Funge Labs to help design some things for What the Funge. But I am working with Parallel directly, and then just on the side helping out Funge Labs and implementing some different designs and things. So just to clarify that up.
Perfect. Thank you. So now let's talk about the game a little bit. So why don't you, Fall, go ahead or whoever, just kind of share a little bit more about the game, maybe kind of highlighting the key points in the grant proposal about the game and just what you want people to know, and then you can segue into the game clip if you'd like.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so as mentioned just prior, What the Funge's primary goal is to increase the number of people within the Prime ecosystem. Just to set the expectation straight here, What the Funge is a game that was built by people in their spare time. It's more or less a passion project. It has come out as a game that's extremely competitive. We had a tournament playing this game just a little while ago. We're seeing a live stream pop up right now as well from Astro, and Astro is actually the first tournament winner, even before he was a part of the Parallel team. But What the Funge was built from the ground up to make it extraordinarily easy to integrate other NFT intellectual properties into the game. We can, within a week or maybe 10 days or so, we'll be able to get any NFT intellectual property built into the game with their own custom unit abilities and statistics and things like that. So that way we'll be able to reach out to these other NFT communities and say, hey, look, you're in the game right now. How about you tweet about this? We have some Twitter spaces about this. And on top of that, if you want to work with us to figure out a unique activation, we can gift some of your NFTs to the tournament winners. We can bring people in, expose them to everything else that's within the Echelon ecosystem. And one really important funnel to all of this as well is that What the Funge exclusively accepts Prime as the currency for everything within the game. So while the game is free to play and you're able to go through and unlock all of these different packs that you're seeing within this store right here, you can also use Prime to sort of shortcut your progression or to start competing in these various tournaments that we host on a weekly basis. So long story short, What the Funge is built to be a turnkey piece of utility that we can offer to any NFT intellectual property out there so that their art can be used in a game within a week. And then everyone's able to hop into this game that is highly competitive, compete in the weekly prize pool tournament known as the VIP Death Pit, and use this product to be able to grow awareness of the Prime and Echelon ecosystem.
Awesome. Thanks, Fall. Asher, are you going to do a little actual gameplay demo or just sharing the screen right here?
Yeah, absolutely. We can do a little bit of gameplay stuff. Just kind of wanted to give some visual context as Fall was kind of covering how the systems would kind of function and how it would work. So we'll kind of walk everyone through the menu first, and then we'll get into some gameplay so you can really see what it's all about with the stuff that has been designed here. So as Fall mentioned, we have our roster selection here. We can actually create a roster that will be composed of 9 packs. And these packs are all composed of different funges that you can see is artwork from. And this one is themed around vehicles from Parallel, the TCG. But as we scroll through, they all have separate unique abilities, upgrades, effects, and like passive perks that you can have enabled. We have like the Anata project here with these 2 packs that highlights their custom artwork they had put into the game, along with their abilities and things like that. As we can see, we have the toads here, the cryptodes. We have some Goblin Town stuff here, some moonbirds, some oddities here. We have some artwork that's obviously not complete. All this stuff is still work in progress. And so we recently have had the Kaiju team join us. So we have a complete pack for the Kaiju now recently, which will have the artwork into the game once they deliver the assets that we have requested. So just to kind of give people context into how you would see these things come to fruition. This pack was recently designed, and as you can see, everything gets its own unique abilities, as well as boosts and perks on this side over here for things besides units. So you can select 9 of these packs to form a roster, in which we will then be able to take into either practice or VIP Death Pit. As Fall mentioned, the VIP Death Pit here is the activation for Prime. You would be able to buy these tickets in Prime that would go towards a prize pool in Prime, with the highest scoring player getting a piece of that down the leaderboards as we would go. So you'd be able to go play for Prime and compete against each other for the highest scoring run, which you'll see what a run consists of, in which you would then win that week's worth of prize pool for yourself.
And just one quick little interjection here. We hosted an alpha tournament with a fairly small group of testers around a month ago, maybe a little bit longer. And there was around 40 people playing, and we had thousands of rounds played for our first VIP Death Pit. People found the game to be surprisingly deep when it comes to the combination of the over 100 unique funges and their abilities and all of the different upgrades within the game as well. And the best players are the ones that put in by far the most time. And Astro here is also I believe a world record holder for some speed runs in video games. So the absolute best of the best of gamers are the ones that were able to find their way to the top of the leaderboards, meaning that this game is provably skill-based and there's a lot to chew on.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to piggyback off of that, we can take a look through some of the rosters, just give some context on that. But there's a ton of synergy to be had between certain things. So with the Shroud here, we have a mechanic called Intel, and you can completely build into this mechanic of Intel, which I'll try to focus on for this gameplay, just to show you the depth of strategy you can go into. But it is extremely varied. It's also, there's a little bit of RNG involved, and so not every run is ever the same, as the opponents you'll be matching will be randomly selected out of an entire pool of other opposing players' rosters. So you won't be really necessarily playing people in real time, but you'll be playing the rosters they have already constructed and gone through a campaign with. So it'll be essentially very similar to the same thing as just playing them in real time as with what they've designed. So we'll get into a practice run here. As you can see, I already have a few of these rosters created, but we have our Intel roster to try to build off of the idea of utilizing Intel as much as we can. So we'll select that and we'll get into it. As we get started here, we are greeted with selecting our initial perk that we start with. So we get to choose a funge we start with, as well as a perk paired with it. So we're going to look through, we're looking to sort of build towards this intel play, and there's a perk that we really want that we did not get, unfortunately, out of our start. So not the perfect start. Like I said, there is some RNG here, but we're going to see if we can still salvage this and make something of shifting our strategy a little bit to still make sure we can be successful. So the assassinate function, there's a bunch of different keywords, and all of them won't be shown off here, but there's a ton of things you guys can find in the What the Funge Discord that will kind of go in depth onto like what assassinate means, and all of these symbols here. So there's like trait symbols at the top right we can see and stuff like that, but we'll just kind of stick to more of the basic stuff. So we'll just start off with the code Astro here from the Anata pack, and we will use this because we want this funge so we can get more funges faster. So we start off in the Copium Lounge, where we can see we have a store selection option here. We can re-roll which units are in our store, so we can pick and choose, as well as buy more slots for more units to house as we go from round to round. We'll also have a bench, so we can store any overflow units there once we get to that point. And just to kind of clarify what we see on the screen now, at the top left, you have these coins. You can see a little tip rat in the bottom right. It says you gain coins every time you enter the lounge. So after every combat phase, we'll be greeted again with this Copium Lounge, as well as a refill in our coins, which will progressively get more coins as we go, so we can afford more things to play. We have hearts here, so every time you win or lose, you will either gain a star or a heart. So every time you lose, you'll lose hearts. And when you hit 0 hearts, your game is over and your score is solidified. The stars is kind of the cap of the game. So once you hit 10 stars, your run is over, and that counts as an entire campaign run. And so the goal of a campaign run is to, at the bottom right down here, is get the highest score possible in a single campaign run, which you get more score for going on win streaks in rounds, having more hearts, as well as potentially not spending all of your gold. So there's a few variables in terms of how do we maximize our score in order to get on the leaderboard as high as possible. So our goal will be to try to win 10 games in a row for the max win streak, for the max score. And to do that, we need to recruit these funges to take into battle and beat the opposing players' funges. So as we can see here, this selection is okay for us. We really like this one because we want to get something called a snack, which we can use to buff up our units. So we might not win our first round, but we will set up ourselves to try to get started and build into a little bit more buffing going on here. So there's going to be a lot of depth that you're going to maybe try to set up for, as well as potentially not always go for the win, but ideally we would win 10 in a row, but we didn't get our perfect start. So we're going to try to salvage it in any way we can. So to get started, we'll just click start round and it'll take us into battle. I'm going to slow down the battle because I fast forward on. As we can see, we're playing against another user. They only had one funge. It had 1 health, and so thankfully we're able to take that guy down, and our funge survived. One of our funges survived, so we are the one left standing to win. As you can see, we got a star, which means we got some more score, and we also have a win streak counter below. So the higher this win streak, the more score we're going to win every time we gain a star. And just to clarify, we have our attack values here with the bomb, and then our hearts, same as HP here for our units themselves. So as you can see, I said I was going to risk it, go for some big setup, and we have recruited a bunch of funges for free based off of the abilities of these funges. So whenever this little owl dies, it'll gain a random snack funge up to my shop tier at the start of next shop phase. So we have now started the next shop phase, and here we go. We got a bug, which is a snack funge that we can use to buff up our other funges. Now we also got another funge, the little Gobo boy here, the Gobbo boy, from our code Astro, which is after my first combat, and on level up, you gain a random funge at your shop tier. So to kind of describe the shop tier briefly, is as the game goes on longer, you can start unlocking more and more powerful units, which is tied to your shop tier. So the more rounds we go, the higher our shop tier goes, and the better stuff we can get out of each pack we have equipped. So now we can see our store has refreshed because we didn't freeze any of our units, which if you would like, let's say you run out of money, you can't buy him this round, you can just click on him and freeze that funge there in place for no cost. And now next time we come back to the shop, he will stay, but these two will go away. So we don't actually need to keep him there for now. We'll just go ahead and get another snack funge of the bug because we want to kind of upgrade our guys, get them a little bit stronger here, and buy an extra slot of units to obtain in the future. So now we can expand how many units we get every time we reroll our shop. So now we're going to have to kind of figure out how we want to play this, because once the round begins, the snacks will actually be absorbed into the funge to their left to buff them up so they get more stats. So a snack gives a funge their stats, so I will gain +2/+2 for whichever unit I pair next to the snack here. So we need to kind of make some decisions. I want my little owl to keep dying because I want to keep getting a free unit, so I'm not going to let him get snacks. And this guy is not really anything I want to build into long run, but we don't really have many options. So what I'm actually going to do is just snack my stacks for now, let them snack on each other, so then only one of them remains for some buffs later when we get a unit that we actually want to build into and try to take all the way to win as many stars as we can. So we're out of money, we have nothing else we can do. All that's left is to go back into battle and try to win the next round and keep our win streak going. So there we go, our snack activates, and now we have a 4-4 instead of 2 2-2s. So as we can see here, I'm actually opposing against my own roster that I played at one point in time. This is not the same roster I have now, but it can draw from a pool of any sort of opponents. So in this instance, this pool is rather small as we have limited playtesters, so we do have my own thing to go against, which thankfully it looks like we're going to be able to take down my old roster just by sheer numbers. And as you can see, they'll deal damage to each other at the same time unless they have any keywords that will change that. And those of you who are like me, who can kind of get impatient, we can do a little speed up option and make that go twice as fast and actually speed through each combat as we go through, in case you don't want to sit through and watch all of these slower animations. So there we go. We got another snack funge because our little owl died, which is something we're building into, which is why we like this unit, because we're trying to build up the snack as high as possible, which is kind of our win condition that we're building towards here, because we want to get as strong as we can, as fast as we can, to beat any of the opposing funges. But we still do want to focus on our intel, which I haven't touched on since talking about getting into the game. Intel is something you can utilize to do extra things in the game in terms of like peeking. Peeking, we can use intel if we have enough, which is intel is the eyeball here. If we have enough intel, we can actually see who we're going to match up against next. So you can use that as an advantage to even re-roll the enemy. So if you see an unfavorable matchup, you can re-roll one time to spend your intel and hopefully draw a better odds win for yourself. You can do this once per round if we build into intel correctly, as well as other perks and things that utilize intel pretty heavily. So here we go. We have a spider drone that gives us 3 intel. We actually don't really need 1 gold, so we can just go ahead and sell this funge and get 1 gold rebate. We might have spent 3 gold on him, but we can sell him back for 1, just so we can do some other things in the game. So now here we are with getting some more intel. We still don't have the 1 perk that we really want that lets us do some bonus damage for having a lot of intel. So we're going to decide on if we want to build into any of these units. And so far, none of these units are super spectacular. They're all kind of more niche things that I'm not going to need down the line. So I'm just going to go ahead and buy another slot so we have more units in the future, and then we'll re-roll, see if we get anything we want to hold on to. Okay, this is something we want to build into, so we'll go ahead and freeze that. We don't really need the snacks too much because we have our little owl feeding us more snacks every time he dies, and we can just get back into it and let them keep snacking on each other as we go.
And hey, just before you start the round there, would you mind clicking the peek button to see what intel has shown us so far?
Oh yeah, we did just buy our spider drone that gives us intel 3, so we now can see what we're about to walk up into here. We can see what we're about to go against now. So you can see the value of intel will be pretty strong, especially later in the game as you get more interesting strategies unfolding, because the further in the game you go, the better your strategies can be acted on. So far it looks like we have some pretty default units. Nothing that we should really be too worried about, but we'll see. We don't know what other funges they have because we don't have enough intel to see that yet, but we at least have an okay idea that we're looking all right.
One more detail about intel, if you don't mind, on the peeking, is that intel, the more you have, the more it allows you to see the buffs of the units and if they have upgrades and some differences between them. So right now, we see they have a 2-1, a 2, and 2 2-2s, but they may have been buffed and be 4-4 in the fight. So you have an idea of what they are as funds, but not their exact stats because you don't have enough intel.
Yeah, and we can see here, not enough intel, 3 out of 11. So once we get 11 intel, we'll actually be able to see if any of the units have upgrades, as Sentience is referring to here, along with any other buffs to their health that is not their default. Because what is showing, like he said, is just their default. This is their default state of having 2 attack and 2 health, but with more intel, we'd be able to get more of an edge by knowing more so what they're equipped with and how strong they have become. So we're going to go back in, let our snack get snacking, and then hopefully let our little owl give us some more snacks as we just kind of have a little bit of a bank of snacks there. So good thing this guy did not have any upgrades, so we're going to be okay to kind of breeze through this. We can see there's a combat start ability here with this unit, where any unspent gold, you gain the attack equal to that gold that was unspent, which is why this got buffed at the beginning of the round. And there's a whole lot of nuances for every single funge, similar to these sort of things that you can build into in a round. Like Fall mentioned, we have over 100 funges with a bunch of combinations that you can build into here. And as you can see, our snack that we have just been buffing over and over again is doing some really good work for us and putting down all of the opposition so that we can continue to get that win streak going here. So in theory, you could have a perfect game, which will be increasingly harder, especially in the VIP tournament, as more and more strategies will be unfolded upon, especially with the RNG aspect, as you guys can see, of what am I getting in my store, when am I getting it, what perks am I getting, who am I matching against. So every game is different. Even if you use the same setup, it'll always be a different experience as who you're fighting against, and even your potential roster that you're building in the Copium Lounge won't be guaranteed. You can try to make it guaranteed, but it's not going to be. And as we can see here, we actually just got a boost, which we get to select either an upgrade, an effect, or some other sort of buffs that we can utilize to equip to our funges. So we can read through these. Equipped unit has, on death, you spawn a 1/1 copy of this funge. We have equipped unit has +2/+2, or this funge sells for 5 more gold, with this little symbol meaning they're all upgrades and none of them are effects. We are probably going to want to snag backup copy and fattened up. Both will be pretty good here. We're not really building into trying to use gold a bunch, even though there are some pretty good synergies around spending gold and using gold. So we'll just kind of look more towards either getting a stat stick or getting more of funges to spawn. So we're actually gonna go with a dupe, like a backup copy here. So then we actually have a little boost tab here at the bottom left, which was the vial that was cracked open as we got a new one. We can click in here, take a look at what boost we have. We have an upgrade that we have yet to equip, and you can also buy a boost for 10 gold every round, which we don't have enough gold yet. We could sell some funges for that, but we don't want to do that yet. So now we're going to start looking for some units that we want to build into by buffing them with our snack. Unfortunately, we don't have any of them. I'm looking for a very specific one with this setup, so we're not going to really build into our snacks anymore yet, but we're going to go ahead and sell this guy because he is getting very weak as a 1/1. It won't really provide us too much of a benefit. This guy is pretty good here, the attack craft, because it'll double our intel at the beginning of the round, but unfortunately we don't have the perk that we can build into with that, so it's not top priority to get. This will give us some more intel to reveal some more of the units that we're going against. So what we're probably going to do is let this guy keep getting buffed, build into gaining more intel, and then re-roll to see what other units we can try to pick up for later. So we have another one of these, which would be pretty high value to get later on, but we don't want to stack up too many of them because we still are looking for some units here. So we're going to keep on rolling, see if anything else. This could be value, but I don't think we need it quite yet. I think we're actually pretty good. We don't even need to spend all of our gold. We can either buy another bench slot because we can actually move our funges and put them on the bench so we do not take them into battle with us. So you can have an overflow of funges and put them onto the bench. But we don't have an overflow, nor do we need to have it. But what I could actually do here, in sake of just showing some more features instead of going for a long game, because I don't think we need to finish the entire game for you guys to get the idea, is showing you how the upgrades of units work. So even though I'd love to keep this guy and continue to play, we'll just go ahead and sell him so we can get 3 gold, which is going to be enough to buy our 3rd copy of a spider drone. So after you obtain 3 copies of a single unit, when I click on it, you'll notice I can't actually put it into a slot here or into my bank, or my bench rather. I actually have to combine it with one of these, as when I click onto him, all 3 will combine, he will become upgraded, his stats will double from his baseline, and we'll get a hairball of desire. As we can see, it gives us a nice little boost of gain your choice of 1 of 2 funges from your shop tier +1, which means we get an earlier access to some higher grade funges. So we'll go ahead and collect that boost, go to our boost tab, and we got a nice little sludge hairball here. We'll be able to pop that and have our choice of 2 units that we typically wouldn't be able to purchase at this point in the game.
And one little thing I want to jump in here and talk about in terms of the architecture of the game is that everything is actually handled by back-end microservices. So when Astro went there to discover which funge that he got for that reward, it hit our back-end services with a unique key and things like that. So we've made this game essentially impossible, which will make it a lot better for the play-to-earn sort of environment that we're looking for, tournaments and things like that. And what it also means is that, assuming that this game sees a good amount of uptick in the future, the front end here, the thing that we rushed... Oh, I'm cutting off a bit.
I think we have you back now.
Okay, here, let me just change my setup. One moment. Feel free to keep on going, Astro.
Yep, we'll just keep going into it. We're going to go ahead and upgrade. We don't actually need to use our upgrade yet, so we'll hold on to that and just kind of let these funges go to work, and hopefully we can take down any opposition. So this is going to be tough. The opposing Kaiju pack has some very valuable units in it. So we're gonna have to go against this roster here and see if we can take it down. If we had enough intel, we could re-roll here, but we do not, so we cannot avoid fighting this. We just need to try to set this up as best as we can so that we can win. So every time that this guy gets a killing blow, he will gain 3 attack and 3 health. So we don't want him to kill any of our units before I can put him down. So we need to rearrange the order of our Funges in order to make sure we can take this guy out right away by putting our 6/6 in the front. And hopefully he doesn't have any more upgrades or buffs, or else he'll still put us down. So as we can see here, like I said, he gets +3/+3 on killing blow up here and knockout. And knockout is a keyword that when you kill an enemy, any extra damage from the killing blow of the enemy will be sent off to another enemy unit. So let's say I had my 1 health frog here in the front, and he hit me for 3. That extra 2 damage, because he has knockout, will go to another one of my friendly units. So we do not want him to get a kill for 1, because he'll get buffed by 3/3, and he'll also distribute the remaining damage to my units. And just to be clear here, anything a unit gains while in combat is only for that combat instance and will be reset at the next phase, unless it's worded otherwise. So it'll say permanently gain or just gain. So in this case, he'll just gain it for this combat phase. But if it was a permanently gain buff, that's obviously way more value, because you can build up over many rounds to make him stronger and stronger, instead of having to regain those buffs every single time you play. So he also has a few of the kaijus here, which is why the artwork is missing for now, with some placeholder images. And once we get those assets, those will be remedied. So he's got the Mecha Kaiju and the Scientist. This one I'm more worried about. If it has upgrades, it could be pretty dangerous, as Fortify is another keyword we haven't seen yet. But Fortify reduces the amount of damage that the enemy, or that this unit will take. So if I deal 2 damage to this unit, the Fortify 1 will actually absorb 1 damage and only deal 1 damage to his health. So there's a lot of depth in terms of keywords and mechanics in the game that might not be apparent at the surface. But once you start playing, you'll learn all these keywords, all these different interactions, and try to build your best roster to beat everyone else while they're doing the same thing. So we'll just go in. We've set up as good as we can. We want this snack to actually get snacked on by this guy. So the Funge to the left will always eat the snack. So this snack will give us Cheap Shot. And that's a new keyword we haven't talked about either, which Cheap Shot lets you hit first for free 1 time. So now this bug will become a 8/7 and get to attack first before the enemy gets to attack. So we're going to go ahead and let him get consumed by our bug, and then try to take out that Inferno Toad and not... Oh. Looks like he got snacked the other way around. Looks like we have a little something interesting happen there. That's all good, though. We still have... So he actually took the snack instead, but that's okay. We take him down, and we'll continue to work. So we can see here, we didn't see the upgrades or the buffs that this unit had, because our intel wasn't high enough, as Sentience referred to before. And it took us 2 blows to kill him because he had Fortify. And now we will go into this, and we should actually win, because he will spawn another little acid kaiju here, but we will still be able to take him down and have 1 unit remaining afterwards.
So just as we take into mind the length of this call, I think that this would be a good spot to... Oh, am I cutting out, by the way, or is this working all right?
Nope, you're good.
Fantastic. I think that now would be a good time to sort of go into some conversations and things like that. And Astro, if you want to keep on playing in the background, I think that's a great idea. And what I wanted to finish on for what I was chatting about earlier is that the way that this game runs is that all of the interactions that Astro is making here with the client is sent to an array of microservices that validate every single match as it's happening. So what we have within the game client itself, if a user tries to go in and modify any of the things and try to hack what's going on within the Copium Lounge here, then our microservices would be able to detect that and to be able to invalidate a user's request to make sure that we have as secure of a system as you can have for when there is Prime on the line. So users will be paying some entry fees to our tournaments and things like that. So we put a lot of effort in making sure that this game is as difficult to hack as possible. And what this also means is that, assuming a long-term trajectory here where What the Funge is a really big hit and things like that, the back end is already built, and we can easily port in a different front end where we use, let's say, 3D characters with more complicated animations that have cosmetics and things like that. What we have here for What the Funge is a proof of concept that is here to grow the Echelon ecosystem, and it's surprisingly fun and competitive even in its current state. Yeah, Astro got wrecked there, hey? So
that wasn't great for us there.
So what platforms will this be available on? This will be hosted on whatthefunge.io, and as long as you're able to run a Chromium browser, you'll be able to play the game. There may be some issues within the first few weeks using a mobile device. There's like a keyboard widget interaction thing that we're still figuring out. But outside of that, as long as you're able to visit whatthefunge.io, you'll be able to play the game.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Let's keep asking questions in the chat. If you have questions, we'll get to those either as they kind of fit in with other questions, or we'll have an open question point at the end. We can bring those back up. So you covered a lot of ground. Some of this might be repetitive, but I want to drive it home after we just had a nice demo. Paul, so what was the motivation for creating What the Funge? I think it's important to repeat that. What was the genesis for this idea?
Yeah, the main thing, I've been in crypto for a decade now, and what I've noticed is that crypto is extraordinarily tribal, and we're missing some very large opportunities when it comes to growing the size of any individual network, or the one that I care about the most being Prime, by how tribal some other communities can be. So the whole idea around What the Funge is to be able to offer any existing NFT community turnkey utility for their pre-existing assets. So let's say Cryptodes here, we are now able to go to their community, and I've been talking with Gremplin and be able to say, hey, look, all of your Cryptodes are now able to be played in the game. If you own a Cryptode, eventually all of the Cryptodes packs within What the Funge will be unlocked for you for free. And you'll be able to jump in and play and use your NFTs and compete within What the Funge. So What the Funge was built from the ground up to offer turnkey utility to pre-existing NFT communities with the end goal of growing the Prime and Echelon ecosystem.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think you kind of covered this, but I'll ask it just to make sure you just covered. What do you feel like What the Funge is bringing that is unique and kind of innovative alongside Prime, potentially?
So one thing that What the Funge is bringing is a type of game that brings with it a few benefits when it comes to a global network of players. So since we have asynchronous matchmaking, it's possible to be able to jump into the game and matchmake at any time of the day, whether you're in Australia, Singapore, New York, or LA, it doesn't matter. As soon as you click start round, you are immediately matchmade against an opponent, whether you're in practice mode or VIP death pits, you're never waiting for a queue. On top of that, because What the Funge is an auto-battler and there's no timer behind any of your actions, you can take all the time in the world you want to make the best possible strategic decisions you can with the resources you have available to be able to be competitive and take your time. You're even able to, as Astro is pointing out here, exit out of your campaign at any given time and step back in whenever you're ready. So you can do a few rounds while you're on the toilet at work and then be able to pick up that same game when you get home at the end of the evening.
Could I add something to this? I would like to also emphasize that gameplay-wise, the game has great replayability, because not only do the different packs have self-contained strategies that can be utilized and will be built upon with different expansions in the future, all the packs together have different nuances that could create some crazy wacky strategies, and having a constant mix of the super funds, the hairball basically, it gives you different buffs, having the different perks, the different upgrades and boosts. You can have constant replayability, which is great marketability for streamers and YouTubers and everybody playing and watching. So I think it's also something we need to talk about.
Thanks, Sentience. It's a good point to share. Cool. Let's keep going through. I want to get to questions here in about 5 to 6 minutes from the community. Anything that's not in the grant proposal that you want to be sure to highlight to folks here and maybe watching the video later?
Yeah, for sure. So just to answer Warwick's question here. So the packs that we have within the game, the stats that they have when you purchase them within the Copium Lounge, they'll always be the same. But there are so many different options and avenues to enhance or upgrade or increase the stats of your purchased funges throughout your campaign within What the Funge. So typically what we do when we go to an external community such as Kaiju Kings, which has very recently been added and we're planning a larger activation with them as well, is we as the game designers will go back and design a custom pack that works with the art of Kaiju Kings. So since Kaiju Kings are these really armored looking sort of dinosaur dudes, we worked around Fortify and Retaliate. And we built this pack around this whole theme, and we have some unique mechanics there. We went back to the Kaiju Kings team and said, hey, do you guys like this? They said, this is sick. And now it's in the game. It's good to go. And so every single Funge within the game will have a preset set of stats that's predetermined by us, the game designers, because we want to make sure that nothing is too powerful. But things have been changed throughout the development of this game in terms of their balance and their relative power and what keywords and abilities they have, just to make sure that the game is as competitive and diverse as possible. In terms of some of the features for What the Funge that aren't mentioned in the grant proposal, we are working on a brand new system for this game it's in development right now called the Ringleader system. And what the Ringleader system does is it allows you to slowly unlock loot within What the Funge and equip it to sort of a super funge that you have called a Ringleader. And all of these different bits and pieces of equipment will allow you to customize your perfect funge for your perfect strategy. And you will be able to then purchase that when you're in Tier 6 within competitive matchmaking of What the Funge. And the biggest thing is that these pieces of equipment for these ringleaders, they'll be NFTs. And you'll be able to trade them on Uplink and using the base network. So there will be the ability to go in, play a lot of What the Funge, discover some really unique equipment, trade it with other people, and continue to compete for the top spots in the leaderboard.
Awesome. Thank you. Cool. Now let's get in some questions in there. We'll take them as they come. All right. Kind of want to bring up a couple items to address that were kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of curated out of the community. Really is around the prime spend and the grant request. So first one we have is, can you clarify, and you touched on this, but I want to be super clear for everybody, clarify what activations are and how the grant supports them.
Sorry about that, I was typing a response. So when it comes to community activations and what the prime there would be spent for. So the really tricky thing about really codifying this is that what each NFT community that we reach out to would want in order to be able to activate their community is going to be different from community to community. So this funding pool would be used for things such as enhancing tournament rewards for when their community comes and joins. It could be used as a way to offset the tournament entry costs for that particular NFT community for a week or two. For some of the NFT communities that we've been talking with, they want to give us tens of thousands of dollars worth of their NFTs to give out as tournament rewards to people when they decide to activate their community. Some other things that we want to do as well is whenever people win tournaments, whoever gets first place every week, they would be able to choose another NFT community to come and bring in. We would design a pack for them, we'd get them into the game, and then we'd be able to use part of this funding to be able to create proprietary and specialized marketing materials for these particular activations as well. So the issue with answering this question with a great degree of granularity is that I would say that the sky is the limit here, but there are boot prints on the moon. What we can do when it comes to activations with other communities is really dependent on how big we're able to dream and how large their community is, and having a pool of resources to be able to really pour fuel onto the fire of what is the main purpose of What the Funge, which is growing the size of the Echelon network through access to other NFT communities, is where we're at with activations.
Awesome. I think that's helpful insight, and people can ask more questions in the chat if they want clarity. So I think you kind of answered this question, but let's just be really clear. Why is Prime needed or sought after at this stage in the project's life? If you're near development, what's the key role of Prime here and why you want a Prime grant?
Yeah, so there's 3 different pools. I've just spoken about the community activation pool, so hopefully the answers there are sufficient for now. I'm always available on Discord to answer any further questions about that as well. So there are 2 different elements of the grant as well. One is the play to earn pool. So What the Funge is an extraordinarily competitive game with a huge amount of replayability and strategic depth. So due to that, we have a replayable, you can enter it as many times as you want every single week, tournament mode. To make this tournament mode appealing to people, we'll be preceding the tournament reward pool every week with some amount of Prime. Users will have to pay Prime to enter this tournament on a per entry basis to compete for the top spot in the leaderboard to be able to win that pool of Prime. So the largest tranche of this grant ask is to make it so that What the Funge has its own play to earn pool. So that way, let's look at the worst case scenario. What the Funge it does not see any uptake and the play to earn pool is not successful in retaining users. Then fortunately, our larger play to earn pool as Echelon would not be compromised in any way, shape, or form from the lack of activation that What the Funge could bring. So by giving What the Funge a very small play to earn pool to experiment with, we can give this project the opportunity to demonstrate profitability before we give them access to the larger Echelon play to earn pool. The third part rather, of the Prime ask for this grant is the development side of things. As we hopefully all know, game development is extraordinarily complicated and expensive. And while What the Funge is completely playable and good to go and it's in its state right now, there are a few things that we would need some additional resources to do, such as integrating with Echelon's uplink, porting over our smart contracts and support over to the base network, integrating the NFT feature that we're working on right now to be able to add further replayability and further depth to this ecosystem and this product as a full offering. And then other additional support, such as introducing additional packs to the game, fixing bugs that we find when we release this, and things like that. So while the game is in a good state right now, this additional Prime will really help us refine this product and make it to be the best possible product that it can to join the Echelon ecosystem.
Thanks, Paul. Great. I think that covers a couple of the key questions around how these Prime would fit in and the point of the request and where we're at right now. So any other questions, please start typing in the chat. Sean or other EPs, if you've seen something that hasn't been addressed yet, please bring it up. Or raise your hand if you're in the chat and you'd like to just jump up on stage and ask a question. Otherwise, maybe we'll have to ask Astro to get the music on for Warwick.
Oh, does he need the noises to be a bit louder for them?
We had a special request for the music vibes.
All right, we got the musics.
All right.
Okay, so Warwick's question here is, do entry tickets fully cover the prize pool, or is it also funded by outside Prime like the gameplay pool? How is the pool replenished? This is a great question. So initially, at the start of every week, we are intending to use the gameplay pool, if this grant passes, to precede this VIP Death's Pits Prime pool for that week's tournament. So let's say we put 3,000 Prime into this prize pool. The tournament entries that users purchase for that week would first and foremost go towards repaying that initial tranche of Prime. So let's say it's week 1, we put 3,000 Prime from What the Funge's play to earn pool into week 1's tournament prize pool. The first 3,000 Prime that we earn from people purchasing tournament tickets would go towards paying back What the Funge's gameplay pool. The point of this is we want to make sure that What the Funge is a sustainable project first and foremost, as the primary benefit of having What the Funge in the Echelon ecosystem is using it as a Trojan horse into other NFT communities by offering them turnkey utility and being able to jump into a game with their proprietary art. So by having What the Funge last longer, as opposed to focusing on making sure that as much Prime as possible goes back to the sync distribution schedule, will ensure that we have as many opportunities as possible to grow the number of users within the ecosystem, which is a very important thing for all of us. With that being said, once the seed amount of Prime is paid back, then we're more than happy to send a healthy chunk to the sync schedule to ensure that all of our entrenched and long-term Echelon supporters will see some Prime from this as well.
And Fall, there's a follow-up question from Dave about tickets being priced in USD or priced dynamically.
Oh, the only currency that we care about in this game is Prime. USD is not considered or mentioned anywhere. So everything is just priced in Prime. So if Prime were to go way up in cost or in value, then everything in this game would as well.
Right, because just to clarify, you use Prime to purchase Funge Bucks, in which then you can spend the Funge Bucks on things in the game. So that would be the flow of operations. So if you take your Prime, you would then buy Funge Bucks, which we can see here in the store. There's a Prime to Funge Bucks options here. You would convert your Prime into Funge Bucks, and then you'd be able to use that to purchase any packs you wanted to purchase to play with, on top of any tickets you would want to enter the tournament. It is also important to note that the main focus would be the tournaments themselves, as users will be able to unlock packs every day for free just by playing the game and earning points. So just to kind of clarify the order of operations there, with Prime into Funge Bucks into spending it in What the Funge.
Thanks, guys. And Meta had a question earlier about scaling the game. Maybe Fall, if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, happy to answer that. So this entire game is built with a myriad of microservices, and it's very easy for us to just spin up additional instances if we see demand outside of what we originally scoped to support. So it's as easy as just scaling up the microservice architecture that we have. So this game is built from the ground up to support dynamic and elastic demand for this game. So I have no concerns about being able to support a huge influx of users.
And in terms of like an initial number of users that you would like to see when the game is launched, what would that look like?
The number I'd like to see is about 8 billion unique daily players.
Totally realistic. Okay. There's another question from Warwick about the VIP pit. I think Astro covered that.
Yeah, so just for clarity here, Funge Bucks can be purchased with Prime, but Funge Bucks cannot be turned back into Prime. That is a one-way operation. But if you win any tournament within What the Funge, you'll be paid out Prime, not Funge Bucks.
And just to be clear, that's an off-chain credit system.
That's correct. And as we transition to base, it would be possible for us to get rid of Funge Bucks. But since this game is currently on ETH-L1 with transaction fees being what they are, we needed an intermediary soft currency to make it plausible to actually spend Prime within the game.
Great point. Warwick, your answer to sync schedule is the sync schedule. So what is driven to the sync schedule would go to the sync. The Echelon sync schedule would go according to those schedules. So, yeah. I see Aldezo's writing a question. Maybe we'll let him drop that in. And then we're approaching time. Astro and Fall, I don't know if you guys are around to hang out, and we'll stop the recording when we are done with questions. Maybe just go through gameplay and have more of an open forum. Is that cool with you guys for maybe an extra 10 or 15 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm available to do so.
How will we use 6551s? That is a great question. So 6551s are all part of the ringleader system that I was talking about earlier. So users will have this ringleader NFT that will support the use of 6551, and what users will be able to do is take the pieces of equipment and loot that they get from playing What the Funge, and they'll be able to slot that into their ringleader. And then what users will be able to do is they'll be able to take these ringleaders and transfer them to, let's say, another wallet. They'll be able to trade these pre-constructed ringleaders with all the different equipment that they've gone out and either traded or earned within the game. So the practical application of 6551 here is essentially using being able to. Oh, sorry, someone just one second here. Sorry, I'm in a house with my family right now, and someone just opened the door, so I lost my train of thought. 6551 would be, this is sort of like an inventory system, and the ringleaders would be NFTs, and you'd be able to slot in the equipment and be able to trade that as a whole object, as opposed to having to trade individual pieces of the equipment for your readers.
And just to clarify, we're using some internal language regarding ringleaders. A ringleader would be a funge, so it would be essentially be a custom, a funge, and that is how the inventory would work in terms of the 6551. So ringleader would become a funge similar to these units you see here.
Excellent. We'll give it 2 more minutes, final questions, and then we'll stop the recording and just let the gameplay roll and have some more less formal conversation according to whatever Fall and Sentience and Astro's schedule looks like. So, Aldezo, you got 90 seconds. I see you typing.
That's a great question, Aldezo. So are there any risk factors considered by making What the Funge a vehicle for Prime ecosystem, with Parallel still being at such an early and untested state? Concerning especially Parallel IP, impact on Prime, dynamics within Parallel, etc. So there's a lot to unpack with this question, but there are unquestionably some risks involved with doing anything and taking any sort of risks. Bringing anything into the Echelon ecosystem will inherently always be risky. So how we've looked to minimize these risks is by, first of all, What the Funge is not a Parallel Studios product. This is from a company called Funge Labs, and Funge Labs is essentially an R&D arm. What I would really love to see Funge Labs become is an R&D arm of Echelon, where we're able to go and try new things out in lower risk products, as opposed to trying things out in our flagship product being the Parallel trading card game. And What the Funge can move a little bit faster, try crazier things, and if it fails, it isn't risking Parallel, the TCG, our beloved flagship product. On top of that, especially with Parallel being so early and untested, I guess we have different ideas of what early and untested means, but I'd have no concerns about Parallel's ability to attract and retain users. We've been seeing overwhelmingly positive feedback from people that are in the beta, but this is a totally different discussion. Parallel's user acquisition journey is very separate than What the Funge, and I think that What the Funge, if anything, will be constructive towards Parallel, as overall we will see an increase in the number of users that are aware of Prime, aware of Parallel, and therefore What the Funge could very well be a vehicle to increase the number of users that end up participating in the Parallel ecosystem as well.
I'd also just like to add to that, from an EP perspective, that Parallel's IP will not be in the game unless they deem it as safe and impactful and constructive. So we have no right. Funge Labs has an agreement, obviously, with Parallel to use the art. Correct, Fall?
That's right. Yeah, Parallel has given Funge Labs the right to use Parallel intellectual property within the What the Funge game. So the executives at Parallel have viewed this as a risk that they're willing to take.
Yeah, so I think, in my opinion, as far as that question goes about should EPs or Echelon be concerned about that, we can be individually, but that's not our call. That's Parallel's. So I appreciate the question, though. Great. The good questions. Warwick noted a question. We're going to take that to the proposal forum. More questions in the forum, more discussion in the forum. Next steps, we'll update everybody the next day or two. And now we can conclude the recording cold, and we'll just have some vibes with some music and some gameplay. Thank you, everybody. Fall, Sentience, Astro, Sean, and other EPs. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for everybody's time in the audience as well.
Thank you all so much.
Got it. Thank you.